Welcome back. Today, we explore the fascinating story of the Battle of Grunwald. As always, relax and let yourself drift away. Let's begin. In 1410, two massive armies faced each other on the fields of Grunwald. The Teutonic Knights, a powerful crusading order that had dominated Eastern Europe for centuries, stood against a coalition of Polish and Lithuanian forces. As dawn broke, mist clung to the vast plain, dotted with trees and rocky outcrops. King Jogaila of Poland rallied his troops. Today, we fight for the future of our lands. Neither side could have imagined the profound impact this battle would have on Europe's future. The clash that followed would not only decide the fate of nations, but reshape the balance of power for centuries. As the armies prepared to engage, an unexpected turn of events would soon alter the course of history. In the early 13th century, a powerful military order emerged in the Baltic region, forever altering the course of Eastern European history. The Teutonic Knights, originally founded during the Crusades in the Holy Land, sought a new purpose after the fall of Acre in 1291. Their attention turned to the pagan lands of Prussia and Lithuania, where they saw an opportunity to continue their holy mission of Christianization and territorial expansion. The Knights' arrival in the Baltic was marked by religious zeal and military prowess. They justified their conquests as a divine calling, framing their campaign as a crusade against the pagan tribes. This ideological framework attracted support and resources from across Christian Europe, including noble second sons eager for glory and adventure. As the Teutonic Knights began their expansion, they encountered fierce resistance from the local pagan tribes. The Prussians, Lithuanians, and other Baltic peoples fought to preserve their lands, beliefs, and way of life. However, the Knights' superior military technology, organization, and tactics gradually overwhelmed the native resistance. Their use of heavy cavalry, crossbows, and siege engines proved decisive in many engagements. The Teutonic Knights' success in battle was matched by their skill in administration and construction. As they conquered new territories, they established a unique monastic state that combined religious fervor with feudal governance. The landscape of Prussia and Livonia became dotted with impressive fortresses, each serving as a center of military power and Christian influence. Cities like Marienburg rose to prominence, showcasing the order's wealth and architectural prowess. The Knights' organizational structure contributed significantly to their rapid territorial gains. The order was divided into military, clerical, and servant branches, allowing for efficient management of both warfare and governance. This system attracted warriors, skilled craftsmen, administrators, and clerics from across Europe, all contributing to the growth and stability of the Teutonic state. By the late 14th century, the Teutonic Knights controlled vast territories along the Baltic coast, stretching from Pomerania to the Gulf of Finland. Their influence extended far beyond their borders, as they became key players in medieval European politics. The order's naval power allowed them to dominate Baltic trade, further enhancing their wealth and influence. The zenith of Teutonic power coincided with growing tensions in the region. The order's aggressive expansion and harsh treatment of conquered peoples created resentment among their neighbors. The newly Christianized Lithuanians, now allied with Poland through the Union of Creva in 1385, began to view the Teutonic Knights not as fellow Christians but as dangerous rivals. As the 15th century dawned, a formidable challenge to Teutonic dominance emerged. The Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, formed through the personal union of the two realms, represented a powerful adversary. This alliance brought together the military might of Poland with the vast territories of Lithuania, creating a force that could effectively challenge the Teutonic Order's supremacy in the Baltic region. The stage was set for a monumental conflict that would reshape the political landscape of Eastern Europe. As the Teutonic Knights reached the zenith of their power, an unexpected alliance emerged to challenge their dominance. The year 1385 marked a pivotal moment in Eastern European history, as a controversial marriage reshaped the region's political landscape. Poland and Lithuania, long-standing rivals, found themselves at a crossroads. The threat of Teutonic expansion loomed large over both nations, forcing them to reconsider their traditional enmity. The proposed marriage alliance between Jogaila, the Grand Duke of Lithuania, and Jadwiga, the young Queen of Poland, sparked intense debate. Jogaila, known for his political acumen, saw the union as a means to secure his realm against external threats. Jadwiga, revered for her piety and wisdom beyond her years, recognized the strategic importance of the alliance, despite initial reservations. On August 14, 1385, the Union of Krewo was signed, creating a personal union between Poland and Lithuania. Jogaila converted to Christianity, married Jadwiga, and was crowned King of Poland as Władysław II Jagiełło in 1386. This momentous decision fundamentally altered the political and religious landscape of Eastern Europe. The conversion of Lithuania, the last pagan state in Europe, sent shockwaves through the continent. The Teutonic Knights suddenly found their primary rationale undermined. The Polish-Lithuanian Union now stood as a formidable Christian power, challenging the order's dominance in the Baltic. Internal challenges persisted, particularly from Lithuanian nobles who feared losing their influence and cultural identity. Jogaila's cousin, Vytautas, emerged as a powerful figure in Lithuania, often at odds with Jagiełło's policies. Their complex relationship shaped the early years of the Commonwealth. The 1392 Ostrow Agreement granted Vytautas significant autonomy as the Grand Duke of Lithuania, while still recognizing Jagiełło's overall authority. This compromise helped stabilize the union, allowing both Poland and Lithuania to maintain their distinct identities while presenting a united front to external threats. The Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth combined the resources of both nations. Like a mighty oak growing from two intertwined saplings, the Commonwealth's strength increased exponentially, allowing it to field larger armies and exert greater diplomatic influence than either nation could have achieved alone. The union facilitated cultural exchange between the two nations. Polish nobles introduced Western European customs to Lithuania, while Lithuanian boyars gained new opportunities within the expanded realm. This cultural cross-pollination led to the development of a unique Polish-Lithuanian identity. By 1400, the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth had emerged as a major player in European politics. Its territories stretched from the Baltic Sea to the Black Sea, encompassing a diverse population. The combined might of Poland and Lithuania made the Commonwealth a force to be reckoned with, setting the stage for centuries of influence in Eastern Europe. As the dawn of the 15th century broke over Eastern Europe, a question hung heavy in the air. If Lithuania had converted to Christianity, why did the Teutonic Knights continue their crusade? The answer lay in a complex web of religious doubts, territorial ambitions, and economic rivalries that would soon erupt into open warfare. Prosody rate percent. The Teutonic Order's expansion into Lithuania had been marked by a series of raids, particularly targeting Samogitia. This region held strategic importance as it linked the Order's territories in Prussia and Livonia. Despite Lithuania's official Christianization, the Knights questioned the sincerity of this conversion, using this doubt to justify their aggressive campaigns. The dispute over Samogitia became a focal point of tension. The Peace of Raysionj in 1404 had placed Samogitia under Teutonic control, but this arrangement was far from stable. The region's inhabitants, fiercely independent and resistant to outside rule, became a flashpoint for conflict between the Order and the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. Poland harbored its own grievances against the Teutonic Knights. The control of Dobrzyń land remained contentious, with Poland asserting its rightful claim. Polish ambitions also extended to Gdańsk, a vital port city under Teutonic control. These territorial disputes intensified the growing hostilities. Economic factors played a crucial role in exacerbating the conflict. The Teutonic Order's control over the lower reaches of the Neman, Vistula, and Daugava rivers gave them dominance over crucial trade routes. This stranglehold on commerce threatened the prosperity and autonomy of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, further straining relations between the powers. The Knights' accumulation of power and territory alarmed other rulers in the region. The balance of power in Eastern Europe teetered precariously, with the Teutonic Order's expansionist policies threatening to upset the delicate equilibrium. Diplomatic efforts to resolve these mounting tensions proved largely futile. A truce signed on October 8, 1409, was meant to provide a cooling-off period, set to expire on June 24, 1410. However, both sides viewed this interlude as valuable time to prepare for the inevitable conflict. King Wenceslas of the Romans attempted to mediate the dispute, but his intervention only inflamed the situation. His declaration that Samogitia rightfully belonged to the Teutonic Order was seen as a clear bias, undermining any pretense of impartial arbitration and further entrenching both sides in their positions. The spark that ignited this powder keg came in May 1409, when an uprising erupted in Samogitia against Teutonic rule. Supported by Lithuania, this rebellion represented a direct challenge to the order's authority. The knights responded with force, not only moving to quash the uprising, but also launching an invasion of Polish territories. This aggressive action by the Teutonic Order crossed a line that could not be uncrossed. On August 6, 1409, the Grand Master of the Teutonic Knights formally declared war on Poland and Lithuania. The die was cast, and the stage was set for a confrontation that would reshape the political landscape of Eastern Europe. As the specter of war loomed over Eastern Europe, both the Teutonic Knights and the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth began mustering their forces. The Grand Master of the Teutonic Order, Ulrich von Jungingen, initially devised a strategy based on separate invasions from Poland and Lithuania. This miscalculation would prove costly, as the unified front caught the knights off guard. The Polish-Lithuanian army, under King Władysław II Jagiełło and Grand Duke Vytautas, orchestrated a massive troop movement in late June 1410. The Allied forces converged at Czerwinsk, crossing the Vistula River using a pontoon bridge. This feat of military engineering allowed for the swift passage of thousands of troops, horses, and supplies. The Polish-Lithuanian army was organized into 3 lines of wedge-shaped formations. Polish heavy cavalry, armed with lances and longswords, formed the left flank. These mounted warriors wore plate armor, their horses protected by chainmail barding. On the right, Lithuanian light cavalry took position, equipped with composite bows and lighter armor for increased mobility. The Teutonic Knights called upon supporters throughout Europe. Their forces were renowned for discipline and superior equipment. The Knights' heavy cavalry, clad in white surcoats with black crosses, formed the backbone of their army. They wielded heavy maces and battle axes, their armor a combination of plate and chainmail. Supporting them were skilled crossbowmen, whose weapons could pierce armor at considerable distances. Both sides engaged in diplomatic maneuvering. The Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth secured support from Bohemia, Moravia, and even Tatar cavalry units. The presence of these diverse allies highlighted the complex web of medieval European politics. The preparations for battle were not without challenges. One Polish chronicler recorded the struggle of a young soldier named Jakub, who spent days fashioning makeshift armor from boiled leather and scraps of metal, only to have it fall apart during a training exercise. As early summer 1410 dawned, 2 massive armies stood poised on the brink of conflict. The Polish-Lithuanian force represented a new power in Eastern Europe, while the Teutonic Knights embodied the old order. The outcome of the impending battle would reshape the balance of power in the region for generations to come. With so much at stake, tension gripped both camps as they made their final preparations, each side knowing that victory could mean dominion over Eastern Europe, while defeat might spell the end of their political and military ambitions. In the sweltering heat of early July 1410, the Polish-Lithuanian army embarked on a daring maneuver that would catch their adversaries off guard. King Jagiełło and Grand Duke Vytautas orchestrated a bold strategy aimed at striking at the heart of Teutonic power in Prussia. The Allied army faced a formidable obstacle, the Vistula River. Crossing this wide waterway presented a logistical nightmare. One soldier, a Lithuanian archer named Gediminas, later recounted, "The heat was unbearable, and the weight of our equipment seemed to double with each step. But we knew what was at stake." Jagiełło and Vytautas had commissioned a pontoon bridge at Czerwinsk, chosen for its strategic value and seclusion. As June ended, the massive host began crossing. Day and night, the army streamed across the Vistula, hidden by the river's twisting course and dense forests. This operation took the Teutonic Knights by surprise. Grandmaster Ulrich von Jungingen had concentrated his forces at Schwetz, leaving the knights scrambling to reposition. As news of the advance reached him, von Jungingen realized the Polish-Lithuanian force was driving straight for the Order's heartland. The Grand Master attempted to block their path at the Drevens River. However, Jagiello bypassed this obstacle, forcing von Jungingen to abandon his position and march north. As the armies maneuvered across Prussia, tension mounted. The landscape of rolling hills, forests, and marshes presented challenges to both sides. The Allied armies' diverse composition gave them flexibility that the Teutonic structure lacked. By mid-July, a major confrontation was imminent. The armies converged on the fields near Grunwald, Tannenberg, and Ludwigsdorf. This area of hills, woods, and small lakes would soon host one of the largest battles in medieval European history. As twilight descended on July 14, 1410, an unsettling quiet blanketed the fields near Grunwald, Tannenberg, and Ludwigsdorf. The chosen battleground, a gently rolling landscape punctuated by small woods and lakes, bore witness to the gathering of two formidable armies. The Polish-Lithuanian forces, numerically superior but diverse in equipment and training, stood opposite the Teutonic Knights, fewer in number but clad in superior armor and wielding advanced weaponry. The night air pulsed with tension as both camps prepared for the impending clash. By flickering firelight, soldiers honed blades, mended armor, and exchanged hushed words about the looming confrontation. King Władysław II Jagiello and Grand Duke Vytautas conferred with their commanders, scrutinizing maps and refining their battle strategy. Their plan emphasized flexibility, allowing for swift adaptation to evolving battlefield conditions. Grand Master Ulrich von Jungingen, leading the Teutonic forces, finalized his own aggressive strategy. He aimed to strike swiftly, leveraging his heavy cavalry and well-trained infantry to shatter the Allied forces' morale early in the engagement. As night deepened, religious ceremonies took place in both camps. Priests moved among the troops, offering blessings and hearing confessions. The air filled with murmured prayers and soft hymns, a stark contrast to the impending violence. Scouts from both sides crept through the darkness, gathering crucial intelligence. They observed enemy positions, estimated troop strengths, and listened for hints of battle plans. Their reports would prove vital in the early stages of the conflict. At first light, an unexpected development unfolded. Teutonic messengers approached the Polish-Lithuanian lines bearing two swords, sent by the Grand Master to King Jagiello and Grand Duke Vytautas. This gesture, known as the Grunwald swords, was a provocative challenge meant to goad the Allied forces into hasty action. The Polish-Lithuanian leaders, however, remained composed. They recognized the psychological tactic and refused to let it disrupt their plans. Instead, they used the moment to rally their troops, presenting the swords as a symbol of the knights' overconfidence. As dawn broke, both armies formed their battle lines. Banners unfurled in the morning breeze, displaying the heraldry of noble houses and military units from across Eastern Europe. A light rain began to fall, dampening the Teutonic Knights' field artillery powder and limiting them to just 2 cannon shots before the battle commenced. The armies now faced each other across the rolling hills, with the fate of Eastern Europe hanging in the balance. The outcome of this confrontation would reshape the region's political landscape for generations to come, potentially cementing the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth's position as a major European power, or marking the beginning of the Teutonic Order's decline. As the morning mist dissipated, revealing the vast expanse of the battlefield, an unusual silence fell over the assembled armies. The Teutonic Knights, their white surcoats emblazoned with black crosses gleaming in the early light, formed their lines with practiced precision. Across the field, the Polish-Lithuanian forces stood ready, their numbers far greater, but their resolve equally matched. King Jagiello hesitated to give the order to attack, heightening the tension that permeated the air. The summer heat bore down on the armored knights, their impatience growing. The Teutonic Order sent envoys bearing 2 swords to the Polish-Lithuanian leaders, a provocative gesture meant to goad them into action. As the sun climbed higher, the signal was given. The battle commenced with a thunderous charge by the Lithuanian light cavalry. Grand Marshal Frederick von Wallenrode, leading the right wing of the Teutonic army, met this charge head-on. The clash of steel and the cries of men and horses shattered the morning stillness as the forces collided in a maelstrom of violence. The initial engagement was characterized by fierce, close-quarters combat. Lithuanian riders employed hit-and-run tactics, striking swiftly before retreating. The Teutonic Knights countered with shield wall formations, their heavy armor deflecting many blows. Neither side gained a clear advantage as riders were unseated, lances splintered, and swords rang against shields. On the Polish left flank, the heavy cavalry surged forward to engage the Teutonic left wing. The earth trembled beneath the weight of thousands of armored men and horses. Polish nobles, fighting for honor and kingdom, matched the Teutonic Knights blow for blow. For over an hour, the battle raged with undiminished intensity. The field became a chaotic tableau of individual duels and small unit skirmishes. Blood-soaked earth and discarded weapons marked the ebb and flow of the conflict. As the battle hung in the balance, the Lithuanian forces began to show signs of strain. Their lines wavered under the relentless pressure of the Teutonic onslaught. At this critical juncture, the Lithuanians executed a tactical retreat, drawing a significant portion of the Teutonic forces away from the main battle. The Teutonic Knights, sensing an opportunity for victory, pursued the retreating Lithuanians with vigor. This pursuit left gaps in their lines, weakening their overall defensive posture. The Polish forces held firm, engaging the remaining Teutonic troops in fierce combat. The Polish heavy cavalry exploited these gaps with increasing success. The battle's turning point came when the Lithuanian forces, having regrouped, launched a surprise assault on the rear of the Teutonic Knights. This unexpected flanking maneuver caught the Knights off guard. Suddenly attacked from both front and rear, the once cohesive Teutonic lines began to falter under the pressure of this two-pronged assault. As the battle raged on, a sudden and unexpected development unfolded on the right flank of the Polish-Lithuanian forces. The Lithuanian troops, who had been fiercely engaged with the Teutonic Knights, began to withdraw from the field. This retreat, whether tactical or forced, would become a pivotal moment in the Battle of Grunwald, shaping its outcome and sparking centuries of historical debate. The Teutonic Knights, observing the Lithuanian withdrawal, believed they were witnessing the beginning of their triumph. Their spirits soared as they saw their adversaries seemingly fleeing the battlefield. One Teutonic commander exclaimed, "The Lithuanians break! Victory is within our grasp." This misinterpretation of events would prove costly. The true nature of this retreat was far from clear-cut. Conflicting accounts emerged almost immediately, painting contrasting pictures of what transpired on that fateful day. Some sources describe the Lithuanian withdrawal as a complete rout, with soldiers fleeing in panic and disarray. Others suggested a more nuanced interpretation, proposing that the Lithuanian retreat was, in fact, a carefully planned tactical maneuver. These sources proposed that the Lithuanian retreat bore similarities to techniques employed by steppe warriors from the east. These nomadic cavalry units were known for their use of feigned retreats to lure enemies into vulnerable positions, a tactic that had proven effective in numerous battles throughout history. Regardless of its true nature, the Lithuanian retreat had immediate and far-reaching consequences on the battlefield. The Teutonic right wing, composed of their most elite heavy cavalry, saw an opportunity for glory and decisive victory. Breaking from their disciplined formations, they eagerly pursued the withdrawing Lithuanians. This impulsive action, while seemingly advantageous in the moment, would prove to be a critical error. As the Teutonic Knights chased after the retreating Lithuanians, they inadvertently created a significant gap in their battle lines. This opening left their flank exposed and vulnerable, a dangerous situation in the midst of such a large-scale engagement. The once solid Teutonic formation now had a weak point that could potentially be exploited by their opponents. The shifting fortunes of battle resembled a great pendulum, swinging back and forth between the opposing forces. What seemed like a moment of triumph for the Teutonic Knights was in reality the beginning of their downfall. The Lithuanian retreat, like the receding tide before a tsunami, drew the Knights into a position of vulnerability. While this dramatic scene unfolded on one part of the battlefield, the Polish forces continued to hold their ground against the Teutonic left and center. Their steadfast resistance prevented the Teutonic Knights from capitalizing on what they perceived as an advantage gained from the Lithuanian retreat. This determination of the Polish troops would prove crucial in the unfolding events of the battle. The true nature and intent of the Lithuanian retreat remained a subject of intense debate among historians for centuries to come. Some scholars argued that it was indeed a panicked flight, pointing to the chaos and confusion that often accompanies large-scale medieval battles. Others maintained that it was a brilliant tactical ploy, designed to disrupt the Teutonic lines and create an opportunity for a counterattack. Regardless of the initial intent, this moment marked a significant turning point in the Battle of Grunwald. The Teutonic pursuit of the retreating forces had left their lines weakened and disorganized. This vulnerability would soon be exploited by the Polish-Lithuanian forces, altering the course of the battle and ultimately the balance of power in Eastern Europe. As the Lithuanian retreat transformed the battlefield, the Polish forces faced the full might of the Teutonic Order alone. Grand Master Ulrich von Jungingen, sensing an opportunity, sought to break the Polish lines and secure victory. The renowned Polish heavy cavalry, suddenly outnumbered, fought desperately for survival. The absence of their Lithuanian allies left a glaring vulnerability in their formation, which the Teutonic Knights swiftly exploited. The clash of steel intensified as the Knights pressed their advantage. Their white surcoats with black crosses became a sea of motion across the field. Grandmaster Ulrich made a bold decision that would shape the battle's course. He personally led a charge of 16 banners, nearly a third of his remaining forces. The ground trembled under the hooves of hundreds of heavily armored horses as they thundered towards the Polish lines. The Polish royal banner of Krakow came under heavy assault. The knights guarding it fought with unparalleled ferocity, knowing its loss would devastate morale. Among them, a young knight stood out. His armor gleaming, he felled multiple Teutonic knights in rapid succession, rallying his comrades with his valor. For a heart-stopping moment, it seemed the banner might fall, potentially turning the tide of the entire battle. King Jigiełło, observing from a nearby hill, committed his reserves to shore up the faltering line. These fresh troops surged forward, lending new strength to the beleaguered Polish forces. The battle reached its zenith, with neither side yielding ground. Cries of the wounded mingled with the clash of weapons and the thunderous impact of cavalry charges. The earth groaned under the weight of the titanic struggle. For those in the melee, the world narrowed to a few feet, where life and death were decided by skill and will. Polish knights fought with the desperation of men defending their homeland, while Teutonic warriors upheld their order's honor. Names emerged from the chaos that would later become legend. Just as the Polish line seemed ready to buckle, the horizon filled with an unexpected sight. The Lithuanians had regrouped and were charging back into the fray. Their timely return shifted the battle's momentum, catching the Teutonic Knights in a precarious position. The Polish-Lithuanian forces, reinvigorated, launched a coordinated assault threatening to envelop the Teutonic army. Grandmaster Ulrich, who had committed so much to his bold charge, found himself in danger of being cut off. The battle entered its final decisive phase, as both sides realized the next few moments would determine the outcome of this monumental clash. The fate of nations hung in the balance as the resurgent Polish-Lithuanian alliance clashed with the desperate Teutonic Knights in a maelstrom of steel and courage. The tide of battle shifted dramatically as the Lithuanian forces, led by Grand Duke Vytautas, thundered back onto the field. Their sudden reappearance caught the Teutonic Knights off guard, shattering their illusion of victory. Vytautas directed his cavalry in a devastating charge against the Teutonic right flank, employing a pincer movement to split the enemy lines. The impact was immediate, throwing the once orderly Teutonic formation into disarray. As the Lithuanian horsemen crashed into the Teutonic ranks, confusion rippled through the Order's forces. Knights who had eagerly pursued the Lithuanians earlier now found themselves isolated and vulnerable. Vytautas coordinated his movements with the Polish forces, initiating a complex encirclement maneuver. The battlefield transformed into a series of chaotic melees, with pockets of intense fighting erupting across the blood-soaked field. Grandmaster Ulrich von Jungingen, observing from his command position, quickly grasped the gravity of the situation. His face contorted with alarm as he witnessed the unfolding catastrophe. Realizing the imminent danger, he frantically issued orders to regroup and shore up the faltering lines. However, the cacophony of battle drowned out many of his commands, and the once disciplined Teutonic formation began to fracture under the relentless Polish-Lithuanian assault. The distinctive white surcoats of the Teutonic Knights, now stained with mud and blood, became isolated islands in a sea of combat. Many of these renowned warriors found themselves surrounded, fighting desperately for survival. The air rang with the clash of steel, the screams of the wounded, and the thunderous hoofbeats of charging cavalry. As the battle raged on, the coordinated Polish-Lithuanian attack methodically tightened its grip. The encirclement strategy, a testament to the military acumen of King Jagiełło and Grand Duke Vytautas, proved decisive. By exploiting the Teutonic Knights' aggressive pursuit of the initially retreating Lithuanians, the Allied forces had created a tactical masterpiece. The very strength of the order, its heavily armored and highly disciplined knights, became a liability as mobility and flexibility proved crucial in the chaotic later stages of the battle. The fate of the Teutonic Order, an institution that had shaped Eastern Europe for generations, now hung by the most tenuous of threads. Grand Master von Jungingen, witnessing the disintegration of his army, faced a critical decision. The choices before him were stark: attempt a desperate breakout, risk total annihilation, or consider surrender. As the sun began its descent, the full extent of the Teutonic Order's predicament became painfully clear. The once mighty army, which had marched onto the field with confidence, now found itself fragmented, surrounded, and fighting for its very survival. The dream of Teutonic dominion over the Baltic region, cultivated over decades of conquest and colonization, was crumbling before the determined onslaught of the Polish-Lithuanian forces. As twilight approached, the Teutonic Order's fate hung in the balance. Grand Master Ulrich von Jungingen, the embodiment of the Order's power and prestige, found himself confronted with a dire situation. The once formidable Teutonic army now lay fragmented and surrounded, its dreams of dominion over the Baltic region crumbling before the determined onslaught of the Polish-Lithuanian forces. In this moment of crisis, von Jungingen made a decision that would resonate through the annals of military history. Realizing the perilous state of his army, the Grand Master gathered his most elite knights, the cream of Teutonic chivalry. These warriors, clad in their distinctive white surcoats emblazoned with black crosses, represented the last hope for a Teutonic victory. Von Jungingen, in a display of both desperation and valor, chose to lead a charge personally. His aim was to break through the encircling Polish-Lithuanian lines and potentially turn the tide of battle. As the Grand Master and his chosen band of warriors prepared for their assault, tension gripped the battlefield. The air thickened with the sounds of clashing steel and the cries of the wounded. Von Jungingen, his armor glinting in the fading light, raised his sword high. "For God and the Order," he cried, spurring his horse forward. The thunderous hoofbeats of his elite force echoed across the field as they charged into the thickest fighting. The Teutonic Knights crashed into the Polish-Lithuanian lines with devastating force. For a brief moment, their desperate gambit seemed to succeed. The sheer ferocity of their assault staggered the Allied forces, creating a small breach in their formation. Yet the numerical superiority of the Polish-Lithuanian army quickly reasserted itself. As the battle raged around the Grand Master, his final moments became shrouded in the fog of war. Some chronicles claim von Jungingen fell to a well-aimed lance thrust, piercing through a gap in his armor. Other accounts describe a more personal confrontation, with the Grand Master cut down by a sword blow in close-quarters combat. Polish chronicler Jan Długosz recorded a particularly vivid account of von Jungingen's last stand. According to Długosz, the Grand Master fought with remarkable valor, cutting down several Polish knights before being surrounded. "God have mercy!" von Jungingen allegedly cried before a group of Polish warriors overwhelmed him, striking him down with multiple blows. The fall of Ulrich von Jungingen sent shockwaves through the Teutonic ranks. As word spread of their leader's demise, many knights lost heart. The psychological impact of losing their Grand Master, combined with the already precarious military situation, proved too much for the Order's morale to bear. Von Jungingen's death marked a turning point in the battle. While pockets of Teutonic resistance remained, fighting with the desperate courage of men who knew their cause was lost, the overall outcome was no longer in doubt. The Polish-Lithuanian forces, emboldened by their success and sensing victory, pressed their advantage with renewed vigor. As the sun set on the fields of Grunwald, the final phase of the battle transformed into a rout. Polish and Lithuanian cavalry pursued fleeing Teutonic Knights, while infantry mopped up the remaining pockets of resistance. The once mighty Teutonic battle formation had disintegrated into chaos, and with it, the Order's dreams of dominion over the Baltic region. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the blood-soaked fields of Grunwald, the true cost of victory began to emerge. The fall of Grand Master Ulrich von Jungingen had shattered the Teutonic Order's resolve, transforming their once formidable army into a scattered and desperate rabble. Many knights, their white surcoats stained with mud and gore, attempted to flee the carnage, while others formed small pockets of resistance, fighting on with grim determination. The Polish-Lithuanian forces, though exhausted from hours of intense combat, now faced the crucial task of securing their hard-won triumph. King Jagiełło and Grand Duke Vytautas issued swift orders to their commanders. The allied cavalry thundered across the battlefield in pursuit of fleeing Teutonic Knights. Isolated groups of Teutonic soldiers were surrounded and overwhelmed. A contingent of Teutonic Knights retreated to their camp, hastily constructing makeshift fortifications from supply wagons. This improvised stronghold became the scene of fierce fighting as Polish and Lithuanian infantry stormed the barricades. The defenders fought with the ferocity of cornered animals, but their valor proved futile against the overwhelming numbers of the victorious alliance. As the fighting waned, many soldiers broke ranks to loot the abandoned Teutonic camp. This breakdown in discipline threatened to blunt the effectiveness of the pursuit, allowing more Teutonic Knights to escape than might have otherwise. The battlefield had been transformed into a grotesque tableau of medieval warfare's brutality. Bodies lay strewn across the trampled earth, their armor glinting dully in the fading light. Priests moved among the fallen, offering last rites to friend and foe alike, while surgeons worked frantically to save those who could be saved. The exact toll of the battle remained a subject of debate for centuries to come. What was clear, however, was that the cream of the Teutonic leadership had been cut down. Alongside Grand Master von Jungingen, many of the Order's most experienced commanders lay dead on the field. The fate of captured Teutonic Knights varied. Some were ransomed, while others faced imprisonment or execution. Many were stripped of their armor and valuables, left to wander the countryside in disgrace. The victorious forces gathered thousands of prisoners, a testament to the scale of their triumph. As night fell, King Jagiełło surveyed the battlefield. "Today, we have struck a blow for our people and our lands," he declared. "Let this victory be remembered for generations to come." The Battle of Grunwald had ended in a decisive victory for the Polish-Lithuanian alliance, a triumph that would reshape the balance of power in Eastern Europe. The Teutonic Order, once the dominant force in the Baltic region, had been dealt a blow from which it would never fully recover. Their aura of invincibility, carefully cultivated over 2 centuries of conquest and crusade, had been shattered in a single day. The dust had barely settled on the battlefield of Grunwald when a new challenge emerged for the victorious Polish-Lithuanian alliance. Despite their resounding triumph, the true test lay in capitalizing on this momentum to strike at the heart of Teutonic power. The Order's imposing fortress of Marienburg, a symbol of their dominance for generations, stood as the final obstacle between the alliance and total victory. As the Allied forces gathered after the grueling battle, a critical window of opportunity began to slip away. The delay in marching on Marienburg Castle, though understandable given the logistical challenges, would prove costly. This respite allowed the battered Teutonic Order to regroup and fortify their defenses, setting the stage for a prolonged siege. Heinrich von Plauen, having missed the defeat at Grunwald due to his position as Vogt of Samogitia, found himself thrust into the crisis. With remarkable speed, he organized the castle's defenses, rallying surviving knights and locals. During one tense moment, von Plauen reportedly climbed the battlements, shouting encouragement and defiance, reigniting his men's spirits. By late July, the siege began in earnest. The Polish-Lithuanian forces faced a fortress that lived up to its reputation. Marienburg's massive walls, over 40 feet high and 7 feet thick, were complemented by moats, drawbridges, and murder holes. The castle's innovative flushing system allowed defenders to maintain hygiene during prolonged sieges. As weeks stretched into months, the besieging army faced mounting challenges. Supply lines stretched thin, and disease spread through the ranks. The Teutonic Order, once a mighty oak of power in the Baltic, now clung to existence like a sapling in a storm. Diplomatic maneuvers added complexity to the situation. The Order's allies across Europe, alarmed by the prospect of its collapse, exerted pressure on King Jagiełło to end the campaign. By September, the harsh realities of the siege were clear. Marienburg had become a war of attrition the Allies were ill-prepared to sustain. The fortress, under von Plauen's leadership, showed no signs of capitulating. Each day diminished the impact of Grunwald and strained the alliance's resources. On September 19, 1410, the siege was lifted. The Polish-Lithuanian army withdrew, leaving Marienburg battered but unbroken. This outcome demonstrated the Order's resilience and the fortress's strategic importance. The failure to capture Marienburg limited the immediate impact of Grunwald, allowing the Order to maintain a foothold in the region. In the aftermath of the Battle of Grunwald and the failed siege of Marienburg, both the Polish-Lithuanian alliance and the Teutonic Order found themselves at a crossroads. The sweeping victory on the battlefield had not translated into the swift collapse of the Order that many had anticipated. As the harsh winter of 1410-1411 set in, the appetite for a diplomatic resolution grew on both sides. The negotiations that ensued were complex and fraught with tension. King Władysław II Jagiełło and Grand Duke Vytautas faced pressure from their nobles to secure lasting gains. The Teutonic Order, though battered, retained leverage through their preserved administrative structure and support from Christian Europe. Heinrich von Plauen, hero of the Marienburg siege, played a key role in these delicate talks. External powers further complicated the process. Sigismund of Luxembourg, King of Hungary and future Holy Roman Emperor, offered to mediate, seeking to maintain a balance of power in Eastern Europe. The negotiations stretched for months, with heated debates over territorial concessions and reparations. The Peace of Thorn, signed on February 1, 1411, surprised many with its modest terms. Poland regained Dobrzyń land, while Lithuania's control over Samogitia was recognized only for the lifetimes of Jagiełło and Vytautas. The most significant provision was the substantial indemnity of 100,000 Prague groschen imposed on the Teutonic Order. The reaction to the treaty was mixed. Many in Poland and Lithuania felt that it fell far short of capitalizing on their military triumph. Some even accused King Jagiełło of squandering the opportunity to deal a fatal blow to the Order's power. The true impact of the Peace of Thorn lay in its psychological effect on the perception of the Teutonic Order. For 2 centuries, the Knights had been viewed as an invincible force in the Baltic region. The Battle of Grunwald had shattered this aura, and the treaty formalized this new reality. The financial burden of the indemnity proved particularly devastating for the Order. To meet the payments, they were forced to raise taxes, leading to increased discontent among their subjects. The Order's economic decline accelerated in the following decades, as they struggled to maintain their extensive network of castles and administrative centers while meeting their financial obligations. Moreover, the justification for the Order's presence in the region, the crusade against paganism, had been severely undermined by Lithuania's Christianization. This loss of purpose, combined with their diminished military reputation and economic struggles, plunged the Teutonic Order into a profound crisis of identity and purpose. The Battle of Grunwald's impact on Eastern Europe extended far beyond the immediate aftermath of the conflict. As the dust settled on the battlefield, a new geopolitical landscape began to take shape, one that would define the region for centuries to come. The Teutonic Order, once the undisputed power in the Baltic, found itself on a trajectory of slow but inexorable decline. This shift in fortunes opened the door for the emergence of new powers and alliances that would reshape the political map of Eastern Europe. In the wake of Grunwald, the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth rose to prominence as a major European power. The alliance between these two nations, forged in the fires of conflict, proved to be a formidable force on the continent. However, this ascendancy was not without its challenges. The Commonwealth's vast territories, stretching from the Baltic to the Black Sea, presented significant administrative and defensive challenges. The loose political structure of the Commonwealth, with its unique system of elected monarchy and powerful nobility, laid the groundwork for future instabilities that would plague the state in later centuries. The weakened Teutonic Order faced mounting internal pressures in the decades following Grunwald. The financial strain of war reparations and the loss of prestige led to growing discontent among the Order's subjects. This unrest culminated in the formation of the Prussian Confederation in 1440, an alliance of Prussian cities and nobles who sought to resist the Order's rule. The Confederation's rebellion against the Teutonic Knights set the stage for further conflicts that would ultimately reshape the political landscape of the region. The 13 Years' War, which erupted in 1454, marked another pivotal moment in the post-Grunwald era. This protracted conflict pitted the Prussian Confederation, supported by the Polish crown, against the Teutonic Order. The war's conclusion in 1466, with the Second Peace of Thorn, dealt another significant blow to the Order's power and autonomy. The treaty effectively transformed the Teutonic state into a vassal of the Polish crown, with the Grand Master required to swear an oath of allegiance to the Polish king. As the Teutonic Order's power waned, the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth continued to expand its influence across Eastern Europe. The shifting balance of power in the region resembled a great pendulum, swinging away from the Teutonic Order and towards the Commonwealth. This expansion, however, brought new challenges. The Commonwealth found itself increasingly embroiled in conflicts with emerging powers such as Muscovy and the Ottoman Empire, stretching its resources and exposing the vulnerabilities of its political system. The Battle of Grunwald and its aftermath had profound effects on the development of national identities in the region. In Poland and Lithuania, the victory became a powerful symbol of national pride and resistance against foreign domination. The battle was immortalized in art, literature, and popular culture, serving as a rallying point for patriotic sentiment. In later centuries, as nationalist movements gained momentum across Europe, the legacy of Grunwald was invoked to inspire resistance against imperial powers and to foster a sense of shared historical destiny among Poles, Lithuanians, and later Belarusians. The reverberations of Grunwald extended beyond politics and national identity to reshape the religious landscape of northeastern Europe. The battle marked the effective end of the crusading era in the region, as the Christianization of Lithuania had removed the primary justification for the Teutonic Order's campaigns. This shift led to a reevaluation of the role of military religious orders in European affairs and contributed to the broader changes in religious dynamics that would unfold during the Reformation era. The Battle of Grunwald in 1410 marked a pivotal moment in medieval warfare, offering crucial insights into the changing nature of combat in the 15th century. This clash between the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth and the Teutonic Knights challenged long-held assumptions about warfare and ushered in a new era of tactical sophistication. The confrontation at Grunwald contrasted the traditional Western European model of warfare, represented by the Teutonic Knights' heavily armored cavalry, with the more diverse tactics of the Polish-Lithuanian forces. This juxtaposition of military philosophies reshaped European warfare for generations. The battle demonstrated the effectiveness of combined arms tactics. The Polish-Lithuanian army's integration of heavy cavalry, light cavalry, and infantry showcased the power of a coordinated, multifaceted approach. This strategy allowed for greater battlefield flexibility, enabling swift responses to changing circumstances. Grunwald also highlighted the importance of strategic mobility. The Polish-Lithuanian army's rapid crossing of the Vistula River caught the Teutonic Knights off guard, setting the stage for victory. This emphasis on mobility influenced military planning across Europe, as commanders recognized the advantage of strategic maneuverability. The battle exposed the vulnerabilities of heavily armored knights when faced with coordinated attacks from more agile forces. While still formidable, the limitations of relying solely on heavy cavalry became apparent. The Polish-Lithuanian forces' ability to isolate and overwhelm groups of Teutonic Knights demonstrated the need for diverse unit compositions. Grunwald spurred significant developments in military technology. The effectiveness of missile troops led to increased investment in crossbowmen and archers. The subsequent siege of Marienburg highlighted the growing importance of artillery, prompting improvements in siege engines and early gunpowder weapons. The battle's influence extended to fortification design. Marienburg's resistance to the Polish-Lithuanian assault demonstrated the value of well-designed defensive structures. In the years following, castle and city walls across Eastern Europe were strengthened to better resist artillery bombardment and prolonged sieges. The Battle of Grunwald contributed to a gradual shift away from knight-centered warfare. While heavily armored cavalry continued to play a role, Grunwald marked the beginning of a transition towards more diverse and flexible military forces. The success of the Polish-Lithuanian army pointed towards a future where adaptability and combined arms tactics would take precedence over chivalric ideals of warfare. The ripple effects of Grunwald extended far beyond the immediate aftermath. Military commanders and theorists across Europe studied the conflict, seeking insights to apply to their own armies and strategies. The battle's influence can be traced through subsequent conflicts, as armies increasingly adopted more flexible tactics and diverse unit compositions, shaping the evolution of warfare in the late medieval and early modern periods. The Battle of Grunwald, fought in 1410, left an indelible mark on Eastern European cultural memory, transcending its immediate military significance to become a powerful symbol of national pride and resistance. Over the centuries, the battle's legacy evolved, taking on different meanings and interpretations across various nations and historical periods. In Poland, the Battle of Grunwald became a cornerstone of national identity and historical consciousness. Polish artists and writers frequently drew inspiration from the conflict, immortalizing it in paintings, literature, and music. Jan Matejko's monumental 1878 painting, The Battle of Grunwald, stands as one of the most iconic representations, capturing the epic scale and drama of the confrontation. The battle also featured prominently in Henryk Sienkiewicz's historical novel, The Knights of the Cross, which further cemented Grunwald's place in Polish popular culture. Lithuanian historical memory, while also celebrating the victory, placed particular emphasis on the role of Grand Duke Vytautas. In Lithuanian narratives, Vytautas was often portrayed as the true architect of the triumph, with his tactical genius and leadership on the battlefield highlighted. This interpretation served to bolster Lithuanian national pride and assert the country's historical importance within the former Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. The legacy of Grunwald extended beyond Poland and Lithuania, with Belarus and Ukraine also claiming a part of this historical heritage. In Belarus, the battle is sometimes referred to as the Battle of Dubrona, emphasizing the role of Belarusian troops in the conflict. Throughout the centuries, the symbolism of Grunwald was frequently invoked during times of foreign occupation or external threat. During the partitions of Poland in the 18th and 19th centuries, references to Grunwald served as a rallying cry for Polish independence movements. Similarly, Lithuanian nationalists in the early 20th century drew upon the battle's legacy in their struggle for statehood. The potent symbolism of Grunwald made it a target for propagandists and political movements in the 20th century. During World War II, both Nazi Germany and the Soviet Union attempted to appropriate or reinterpret the battle's meaning to suit their ideological needs. In the post-war period, communist regimes in Poland and Lithuania continued to use Grunwald as a propaganda tool, often framing it within a narrative of class struggle and anti-imperialism. The fall of communism in Eastern Europe brought about a reassessment of historical narratives, including those surrounding Grunwald. Modern historians have worked to separate myth from fact, challenging long-held assumptions and nationalist interpretations. Despite these efforts at historical accuracy, Grunwald remains a touchstone for discussions of Eastern European history and identity. The battle continues to be commemorated in various forms, from historical reenactments to museum exhibitions. In Poland, July 15th is still celebrated as the Day of Grunwald, while in Lithuania, the battle is remembered as part of the country's rich medieval heritage. The Battle of Grunwald in 1410 marked a pivotal moment in Eastern European history, signaling the decline of the Teutonic Order and the rise of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. Its impact extended beyond military outcomes, reshaping regional politics for centuries. The battle became a symbol of resistance and national pride for Poland, Lithuania, and neighboring nations. Grunwald's aftermath saw the Teutonic Order's influence wane, eventually becoming a Polish vassal state. This shift paved the way for the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth to emerge as a major European power. The battle's legacy continues to influence modern Eastern European politics and identities. As historian Norman Davies noted, Grunwald remains a potent symbol of national unity and determination. How does this centuries-old conflict still shape the region's geopolitical landscape today?